What's going on, y'all? It's your boy Cool Colas here, and you are now tuning into a new video on my channel. But before we get all into the topic, I would love for you to do a few things for me today. Go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button so you subscribe to my channel, hit the share button, hit the bell icon so that you get notifications for whenever I come out with new content, and then make sure that when this video is finished that you go and you leave me a comment. That way I can go back later and I can look at whatever it is that you had to say about the video that I posted. For today's topic, I want to talk about an unpopular opinion. I want to talk about why I believe pro-blacks should judge and label people based off of their behavior. When it comes to labels, or what some people would like to say, name calling, I think it's actually very important that we as pro-blacks do that. And the reason why I say that is because ultimately it's a lesson to others in the black community, specifically those who want to become more codified and those who do identify with pro-black values. Let me tell you why this is very important. When it comes to understanding how to become more codified, you have to also understand who all of your enemies are. And it's not just white supremacists. We also have to understand the coons in our society. We have to understand how people are impacted by white supremacy and the different things that they do and their different behaviors and whatnot. We want to be able to identify everything around us. So we want to be able to understand ourselves and have that level of self-awareness so that we have a pride in our culture. We also want to identify who in our culture does not have that same level of pride and who is coming to sink our ship. And we also want to identify, obviously, what white supremacy looks like in all forms. So it's very important that we label these different things so that we can give a definition to the behaviors and the types of people that show up when it comes to trying to achieve black empowerment. A lot of people believe that this is unnecessary, this is unproductive, and this is something that ultimately doesn't really do the black community any justice, and I 100% disagree. I so strongly disagree with that take. I think the problem is that you have individuals who want to be this negative thing that they're being described as without being called it. So in other words, what I'm saying is you have black people who want to act like coons but don't want to be called a coon. And for the sakes of talking about the white supremacists, you have whites who want to act like white supremacists or want to be racist but don't want to be called racist or don't want to be called white supremacists. Now, one question that I've gotten, which I believe is a very bad faith question, but I want to kind of tackle it anyway, is when it comes to labeling, or what some would believe is name calling, what do you say for blacks who maybe want to experience growth? Maybe they are at a place where they're off code. Maybe they're at a place where they are cooning. Maybe they are at this place where they don't have that camaraderie with the black community. Are they not allowed to change? Are they not allowed to grow? And this is what I would say to that point. To me, when it comes to being off code or just being a downright coon, getting called a label because of your behavior is kind of like a prison sentence. So in other words, what I'm saying is there's a punishment for it. You're going to be labeled based off of your actions and the things that you do and the decisions that you make. It's important for us as pro-blacks to know the individuals who are trying to run counter to what we're doing or have a track record of doing so. Same thing as a prison sentence. You have a certain crime that you've been charged for and you have a certain amount of time that you serve. And then you eventually get off as long as you are on good behavior. And to me, it works the same way when it comes to receiving labels. So maybe you have been cooning back in the day, but then you change things up and you learn more about yourself as far as black culture and things like that. And then you decide to have more camaraderie and to embrace the greatness that is being black or the greatness that is being pro-black. So I see it more so from that regard that it's something that is only a temporary, but it's a choice as to how temporary that individual wants that to be. My belief is that when it comes to being off code versus being a downright coon, these are two different things. So that's another thing that we need to talk about. Being off code, in my opinion, is either lacking the knowledge, therefore you say things that may appear coonish, but it may not necessarily be the case. It may just be that you're just uninformed. You may be open to learning more. You may be open to trying to get more codified and be around pro-blacks, or get the black history that you need to be able to have a better understanding about our history and ourselves, meaning that you're going to see us in a different light as well too. In some cases, people are off code because they're in that process of learning. Maybe they say some off code things. Maybe they believe some things that are on code, and they're still in that stage of trying to get to a place where they do have a camaraderie with pro-blacks, but there's a lot of things that they still are unaware of, and they subconsciously say that are just not in line with the way that we think. And then in some cases, I would say that you're off code because you just simply don't want to address white supremacy. Like, you almost try to transcend it. Now, some people might throw that into like coonery itself, but when I think of coonery, I think of more of a performative action that's used to directly run counter to someone. But I'm just speaking from just the off-code perspective. I would throw that kind of level of cowardice in there as well too, because a lot of times there's this individual who is embracing the fear within them. Because to me, fear and cowardice are two different things. When it comes to fear, I think anybody can be afraid of a possible consequence happening. And that could even include, somebody who's pro-black. But when it comes to cowardice, that means that you're embracing the fear so much that you're choosing to be stagnant and not do anything. And I would consider that something that is off code, because anybody who's on code knows that we are already in a race war, whether you want to believe it or not. And it's up to us to choose the side of how we're going to move. Like, are we going to help black society? Are we going to harm black society by either doing nothing or by basically getting in good with the white supremacists and the individuals who are trying to tear black people down? Now, when it comes to coonery, that's totally different. That means you really have a knowledge of history, black history, that is. You have a knowledge of what your people have done. You have a knowledge of what pro-blackness is. In other words, what I'm saying is you're not stupid. You don't have a misunderstanding of information, or just like a lack of information to have the right level of codification. It means that you have embraced this idea that the white supremacist is who you are going to basically uplift and who you are going to support. You have basically gone against black society as a whole. So I want to make it clear that these are two different things. But yeah, I believe that when it comes to labels, because I feel like we've gotten off subject at this point. When it comes to labels, we have to be intentional about using that to teach other people about the way certain things actually show up, which is why I'm a big proponent of creating my own terms and things to describe different behaviors that maybe never have been described before. And when I look at depictions from media and how they affect black people, it's crucially important, because you don't want to just talk about tropes and agendas and gimmicks and things like that. You also want to talk about giving names to the behaviors that certain people in the black community exhibit based off of the way the tropes impacted them or indoctrinated them. You want to give names to some of the things that the white supremacist does. You want to give names to white supremacist tactics. You want to give names to other individuals who may try to run counter to the mission of black people. You also want to show a trend of how these things show up or what causes them. You want to talk about the psychological reasons as to why certain individuals think, this way. Now, one of the arguments that I've been given when it comes to name calling, to put that in quotations, labels and things like that, is that Frances Cress Welsing did not want black people to do this. And I think I got a criticism like that on my Instagram page. But I think that when Frances Cress Welsing wrote the ISIS papers and she stated what she stated about name calling and things like that, I think that it wasn't under the guise, at least from my perspective, of talking about the difference between being constructive and non-constructive. I don't think that, like, when she was saying the whole thing about name calling, that she was including the idea of if it was constructive, which is why I said it's constructive for me to label things or name call in certain situations, as some people would say, because of the fact that I'm labeling a certain behavior or a certain person or say certain things so other people can identify that and they know what to either not become or what types of people to not involve themselves with. Because let's be real, y'all. people cooning and doing things like that, that's gotten people killed. That's gotten black people literally killed. Matter of fact, most of our greatest movements and achievements that we made in black society have been totally taken down because of prime coonery. So we need to label these things when we see them. And I don't want to make it seem like coonery is the only thing that I'm talking about labeling. I'm talking about labeling white supremacy as well too. Acts of such, that is, and then what it looks like in other spaces as well. So going back to the Frances Cress Welsing thing, I don't want to keep jumping back and forth with subjects, but I think that she was saying that from the lines of, you shouldn't name call if it's going to be unproductive. I don't think it was a thing of don't get straightening going, because I think there's a difference between straightening somebody out and just calling somebody a name or being disrespectful or being mean-spirited just because. I think those are two different things, and I don't think that they deserve to get conflated. So my feeling is you should label things, and for those who get offended by those labels, my advice to them is don't do the thing you're being accused of. It's really just that simple. But if you want to continue to do whatever you want to do, then you shouldn't get upset that you're getting called the name because of it. My thing is we have to be able to teach people about the way that these behaviors that are totally wrong and totally counter to black society show up. And if you're not going to be somebody who helps black society, you're going to be made an example of until you are able to learn why you should be a help to black society. But if not, then you're just going to be a permanent example, and that's just going to have to be what it is. Anyway, y'all, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have a good rest of your night, and I will talk to y'all later. Peace.